Hey Deb Nuts, this is Dave, and last night some of you may have seen at the Sonic Drive-In get-together that Roger suggested that we do, which is fun. I had a prototype for a cooler for my engine bay, and I'll show you a little bit more about that in a second, but let me show you why I'm doing this. So here's the root of our problem. This silver line here, that line right there, that metal line, that's physically connected to the fan shroud, and that physical connection is called a thermal bridge. It allows heat to transfer, so there's no air gap. And then right there, see that plug wire? That's cylinder number 4 right there, and a lot of heat will radiate up and cook that fuel line, especially when you stop driving after stop the engine after the engine's warmed up. And this fuel line used to touch the engine case, but I have since lifted it up a bit using a zip tie, which is fastened to this little mounting point I created. So that's helped, but I still get vapor lock, and fuel boils at a lower temperature than water. In fact, as low as 100 degrees in some formulations. So here is the prototype of my fan system. So I've got 3 12-volt high volume computer fans. These are used for network equipment that require a lot of cooling. And what this lacks in aesthetics, I think it will more than make up for in functionality. I've sealed it off with foil tape all around the perimeter, and in some cases foam around this corner here. There's kind of some nooks and crannies I filled with just compressible foam. Anyway, and then I got my wiring done up to the front, running off of my solar battery. So let's run to the front and take a look at what I've got there as far as the switch is concerned. All right, here we are in the front of the vehicle, and there is the old switch that I had for my oil cooler fan, and this is the new switch I installed and the new wiring for the engine bay fans that I just showed you. So now I'm going to flip this on. You might not hear anything here, but we'll run back and take a look at the engine bay and see what evidence we see of this working. So I'm going to flip this. I can barely make out the fans. And let's run to the back here. You might hear the sound. Now I'm getting a lot of air pulling through here. So I got a really good sense of airflow, which indicates that there's little to no leaking around that that panel that I created. So if I block this, I'll hear the fans speed up, which is sort of like if you ever block a vacuum cleaner that speeds up trying to maintain the volume of air that's flowing. If you were back at the engine bay, and you can hear the fans blowing, and the air is blowing in towards my hand, so the air is blowing in this way. And then we're going to take a look at what happens when we close the engine bay lid. Okay, closing the engine bay securely, and then I come over here and we should feel air flowing out, and sure enough there's a nice breeze coming out, and it's similar to the volume of air that was coming out or being drawn in on the driver's side vent. I literally feel the breeze blowing on my face. Well, here we are back in the engine bay. In fact, you can see this little piece of electrical tape kind of flapping in the wind, the air that's blowing in here. So this air blows in strongly here, and guess what's going to help cool? It's going to help cool that fuel line. So imagine when I'm driving and I stop, I could flip that switch on at any time while I'm driving just to cool the motor generally, or if I'm concerned about getting vapor lock and having this fuel line get too hot, you can see it over here as well, I can just turn this thing on and it'll keep pushing cool air into the engine bay right onto the fuel line, and that will either prevent vapor lock, or if it occurs, it will accelerate the time between when the vapor lock condition existed and when it clears, because I've cooled things enough. Now this, I should mention, really isn't the solution, because the root cause hasn't been addressed. The root cause is I'm too close to radiant heat sources and I got a thermal bridge. So really this fuel line needs to be rerouted. But a quicker remedy, a kind of a workaround, is putting these fans in, which also have the benefit of cooling the engine, providing cool air and making sure there's no stale air in the engine bay on a hot day. So anyway, we'll see how this works. Really, right now I haven't done any driving yet, but we'll find out soon enough, so stay tuned. Signing off.